Yo, what's going on, everybody? Xanthos Vice here, and we are finally back with some more Witch in the Holy Night. Hope you guys are having a great day today. Yes, I know I actually am doing this early, like I said. Well, like I said, I wanted to do Wuthering Waves a bit later in the day, because at least I can possibly give more time for that. Considering, I mean, we know how Wuthering Waves stories are. Not too crazy long, but still a decent amount, so it's like I kind of want to figure out how I want to divide up my time and my attention. So that's the plan for today. We will do Wuthering Waves later today. Tomorrow will still be Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And like I said, on Sunday, I'll see if I can stream after work for some more Star Rails since we do still have to catch up before the next update. Because again, I'm not entirely sure if the 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 collab story ends after that. I'm not exactly sure. I mean, I know the banners are still up, but I don't know about the actual story. So it's like, might as well try to do it while I can in the next couple days. So that's possibly going to be my plan, as well as trying to maybe do an extra Hovering Waves or Trails in the Sky second chapter stream next week. But that's something I have to figure out on my end. Anyway, where we last left off, we had gone through possibly one of the most interesting fights we've ever had, and it was a very unique situation because this is a visual novel, so I didn't think they would go like. I'll be honest, I didn't really know what to expect. Because look, I've played Fate Grand Order, right? And like, we've heard how the battles are kind of illustrated, or I mean, you can kind of like picture it with like the imagery and such. But to be fair, there wasn't really that much that they gave you to really visualize what the battle would look like, even though it's not like fully animated, right? So I was like, I don't know what to expect. Would it have been kind of similar to like how Fate Grand Order does it? I was like, please don't. But it's like just from the regular everyday scenes itself, I started having higher expectations, and they didn't let me down with this Night of the Witches Part 2. It was really great. The whole thing with Alice, and then with her fairy tale that she was using at the end. And then in regards to Alco actually like basically having like a whole like what was it? What do they call it in Dragon Ball Z? Oh, a key struggle. Yeah, basically a beam struggle against each other, like with the moon. That was pretty hype. And also the way that our boy Suzuki came in clutch, farm clutch boy, basically coming up with a way to actually defeat the puppet, or not necessarily defeat the puppet, but like to be able to protect Aoko from that situation. Although in the end, Suzuki was sealed, but again, the question is, what exactly happens from here? Are we really going to seal him permanently? Is there going to be something else we can do? Can we wipe his memories or something? I don't exactly know how this is going to turn out, because like there is some magic to like tamper with people's memories, but it's like I don't know if these guys are capable of it, or if it's a normal practice in this world or not, or if anyone could do it. I'm not exactly sure. So we're gonna see what happened in regards to after that tea time. But before that, I actually want to check to make sure if there was an extra chapter. I don't think there was an extra chapter. Nah, there wasn't. Okay, good. I just had to make sure because again, with these hidden chapters just showing up out of nowhere, giving us extra context, I need to be aware of it. So I always gotta check. So yeah, let's go ahead. Continue the story. Like a dog. He was still in a deep sleep. Oh, right. Sorry, my bad. I need to check my version of a key for like what buttons do I press next for stuff. Because I always forget that. It all seemed to blaze in a mad fiery red. Unbearable idle thoughts, incessant obstinacy, melancholy sights and gloomy, bittersweet talk, fickle wickedness born of human interaction, namely the voice of forsaken coexistence. This, however, was the scenery of a world far removed from that. There were those praying this was paradise, and they were likely also lamenting it as the underworld. In a decade, or perhaps longer, this will all change. For now, the autumn leaves remained yet untrampled by human souls. It was scenery he knew well. Life in the mountains was humble and modest. There were no conspicuous buildings among the wilderness he called home. They gathered and stockpiled only what they needed to survive without pillaging the land. Serpentine trails could be seen woven through the fields. Stone steps leading to the summit were obscured by the forest, only visible once upon them. The mountain inhabitants probably intended it that way. There was no sign of mankind's exploitation among the mountain landscape. He suddenly remembered that this was the season he liked the most. Or rather, it suited him the most. There was much to be done to prepare for winter, but whenever he had a free moment, he would make his way toward the mountaintop. Gazing idly at the setting sun while breathing deep the crisp autumn air was probably the second favorite of his daily joys. It relaxed him, the cold but comforting wind at dusk, and the way the sunset dyed the peaks a vibrant crimson. Now 2 months had passed since coming down from the mountains, and already it pained him that the memories had begun to fade. Someone once told him that memories fade every day, so the best you do, or the best you one do, wait, what? I think it means one can do, is make as many new ones as possible. Recollections grew hazy. A place to live meant the beginning of a new life. He wasn't sure if he was reluctant to let go of the scenery he'd cherished for so long, or if he'd merely been spoiled by it. Despite his new home in a city surrounded by tall buildings, he felt guilty for wanting those memories alone to remain clear in his mind. Either way, he had to make the best of a fresh start. What kind of man thinks more about where he came from than where he's going, he contemplated.
そうか。これ、夢だ。
He tried to stop himself from indulging in uncharacteristic sentimentality. It wouldn't be a dream if it was easy to understand. The moment he realized he was dreaming, angular shadows began to rise from the autumn colors. They were concrete buildings previously unknown, yet familiar to him at the same time. It was how his current life was washing away his memories. Struggling as he might, there was no stopping the degradation of human memories or impressions. It's merely a fact of life. By nature, humans lived in the present over the past. Eventually, even his most cherished memories would be swallowed up by buildings. It was neither cruel nor heartless, but they were sure to disappear, and for now, he would content himself with dreaming about the memories he could clearly recall. Whether in the mountains or the city, the days flew by. Yesterday's scenery was not the same as today's. And such. She'd given him no time to grieve. Distant nostalgia was beautiful, but that made it fleeting.
土産入道じゃないんだぞ、青崎。
A faint dizziness made him close his eyes. Outside, the mountainous landscape vanished. In its place, a familiar voice could be heard. It was a booming voice that seemed to shake not only the mountainside he stood upon, but the entire mountain as well. And of course, Agaozaki reappeared, towering in the distance. He must have been tired, he thought, diagnosing himself while trying to make out what she was saying. Fearing the vertigo would return if he reopened his eyes, he decided to keep them closed. It sounded like she was arguing with someone. The tone was all he could make out. It wasn't violent, but certainly aggressive. Maybe she was picking a fight with another mountain across the way. You wouldn't put it past her. After all, she was a troublemaker who blew up the moon. He couldn't quite grasp the conversation. Oh, I see. So he's basically like trapped in like a dream or an illusion within the bottle. I think Alice did say something to that effect, right? I see. So he's kind of like seeing or hearing exactly what's happening outside, but just not to the full extent. Though somehow vaguely, he had the sense that his human rights were being largely ignored. It was deeply unsettling, even for a dream. After several minutes, seeing that the high-impact argument ended in Aoko's victory. and suddenly the boisterous voice faded, praying everything would be back to normal. He opened his eyes. He took a deep, slow breath. The scenery was a far cry from the nostalgic dreamscape he had just left, albeit not unpleasant either. Without a doubt, it was the amusement park. To him, this was his freshest memory. He recalled the house of mirrors that Aoka Aozaki destroyed. His park was a flawless replica of reality, but he was the only one there. Without having to worry about anyone chasing him, he sat down in the wreckage of Kitsy's rides and looked up at the moon that should have been shot down. The winter moon shone white like a jewel. It was laid over the figure of the girl who tried to kill him. If a mage was a witch, then she definitely fit the bill. I don't mind being killed. Such an absurd thing to say, but it spilled out of him so naturally.
いやでも
That had nothing to do with witches or magecraft. There was an echo in the gaps of his heart. If she had not spoken those words, then he would not have responded as he did. That moment, what Aka Aozaki said to him. He tried to remember. His deep slumber drew to an end, and with it, she has found the answers he so wished he could find. Then, Sojiro woke up in an unfamiliar room, gasping. Not because the plush mattress he was on was softer than his apartment's cheap futon, or because everything from the carpet to the wallpaper looked expensive. Willard, he tried to catch his breath. She was the cause of his surprise. The moment Sojiro's eyes snapped open, there she was, the girl dressed in black sitting at his bedside. The silence was deafening. Still sitting on the bed, Sojiro gazed at her. His impulse was to sit up, but he refrained, thinking it might be rude to be staring at the person sitting next to him. She was just sitting there, on a chair, dressed in black, modest clothes. Still, she projected an air that was anything but plain. Her monochrome outfit evoked indescribable elegance, like a costume handmade just for her, from the finest fabrics. It was enough to inspire poetic sentiments even in Sojiro. The girl continued to sit completely motionless. Without realizing it, Sojiro had stopped breathing. Genuine astonishment had him captivated. Such beauty. It's the first time he'd ever thought to use such a simple, plain expression to describe another human being. She was the daffodil, in perfect bloom, or the idea of female form seen only in dreams. This quality was something to be cherished and admired in her. It was different from Aoka Aozaki's blindingly radiant vitality. After all, the flame that burns twice as bright burns half as long. There was no way this girl would be allowed such a happy ending. Her life was a solitary fable of someone who left the world in exactly the same way they entered it. For humanity stolen at birth, hers was an existence not of this world. The more beautiful something was, the more tragic its fate. Growing up in the mountains, this wasn't something Sojiro was taught, but something he learned from experience.
眠ってるみたいだ
Sorry about that. Needed to drink some water. This time his heart actually skipped a beat. She wasn't asleep at all. Especially as she was mainly watching over him while he recovered.
Oh.
He froze, unable to turn his head away or think of something clever to say. Like staring into her eyes turned him into stone. Perhaps because of her delicate features, she looked somewhat younger to him. On the other hand, her tranquil expression made him feel like she was older. Jet black hair just to her shoulders. Large eyes were set like onyx stones matching her hair. Devoid of emotion, her gaze stayed fixed on Sojiro. Even after their eyes met, she didn't turn away. He wanted to speak but couldn't find the words. It sounded like a frog being stared down by a snake. Nevertheless, he just couldn't bring himself to say anything. Additionally, no matter how carefree Sojiro might have been, he was painfully aware that this girl was as powerful as Elko. Less talkative to be sure, but still powerful. Objectively, the scene was not unlike that of someone nursing a bedridden stranger. He had no idea what she may have been thinking about, but it seemed to him this harsh silence might last forever. All I could say for sure was that the quiet did not appear to bother her in the slightest. It was like some bizarre form of punishment.
これが青崎の仕込みなら手が込みすぎる。
He thought, keeping his eyes on the girl. It felt like the moment he turned his head or blinked, she might stab him in the chest with a hidden blade. And not because his imagination was running away from him. In the stifling silence, it was only natural that Sojiro would think back on what had happened in the amusement park, and it made him uneasy. Stronger than any anxiety was his fascination with the girl. Slender frame and milky white skin. Chill of her guarded stare, warmth of her lingering femininity. It was the mixture of those two latter qualities that was almost magical. He sat there for so long he began to get the feeling that they had met somewhere before. Sometime before the conflict at Kitsyland. Couldn't quite put his finger on it, but he was sure he'd seen her previously.
その今更だけど
His voice shattered the frozen silence in the room. He almost felt sorry for making noise as he spoke out to her. But they couldn't just very well just sit and stare at each other forever. No, he might have been the only one thinking they were staring, and perhaps she thought they were glaring at each other.
ここはどこで君は誰だかわかるかな
There was no response. Just as he was thinking it would have been better to keep quiet, she quietly raised her hand.
これあなたのでしょ
Her voice was cool but melodic. Or melodic. Whatever. A white piece of cloth was wrapped in her fingers. There's no need to tell him what it was. He was conscious enough to recognize his own possessions. He sat speechless as she tossed it to him. Picking it up, he wrapped it around his neck.
青子はそれを知っているの
Oh, right. His bandages. Damn it, so I don't get to see it. Looked away in response to her blunt question. Distracted by something unrelated. She called Aoko Aozaki by her given name. She led him to believe that the mountain Aoko had argued with in his dream was actually the girl beside him.
さあどうだろ
As sincerely as he could, he answered without presumption. There are things that should be known and things that need not be. There are also things that should be told and other things that must not be. Sojiro wasn't exactly sure what that she was referring to,
う
however.
でもその方がいいとは思うよ
Smiled slightly at her question. I was impressed by his response. The overwhelming pressure in the room dissipated noticeably. Or maybe she had been more nervous than he was the entire time, projecting the image that his room was her domain a tad too strongly. He tried to sit up and prop his arms beneath him. As they were talking, it seemed awkward to stay lying down. However, his body felt strange as he tried to move, and it surprised him how difficult it was to sit up. Took everything he had just to raise his upper body to a sitting position.
あれ洋服のまんまだ
As he stood to cover his back, he tilted his head quizzically.
申し訳ないこんないい布団なのにこれじゃあ不釣り合いだというよりもったいない
Stared at him, not expecting him to complain about not wearing pajamas while sleeping. Somehow it appeared that he had done something to surprise her.
なんでだ何もしてないぞ俺
Pounding a bit at the unwarranted curiosity, he turned to face her. Although he was still mostly laying down, it was at least a more dignified position.
それでさっきの続きだけど
Indeed, he needed to find out where he was and who she was before anything else. Actually, the more he thought about what happened at the amusement park, the more he got a sinking feeling in his stomach. As finally getting through to her, she calmly moved her arm from behind her back when... Once again, they silently locked eyes. Suddenly sound of rapidly approaching foot... Oh yeah, okay, good. So I actually did hear that. They both had a pretty good idea of who it was.
アリス、約束。
Just as expected. Kawasaki burst through the door with a thunderous roar. She entered wearing her school uniform, her long hair flowing behind her. Her breathing was heavy and her forehead was wrinkled by a scowl, granting her a demonic appearance.
アリス。
This girl named Alice scowled slightly in response. She may have even let a sign of disappointment slip out.
早かったわね、青子。
Calm voice was the polar opposite of Aoko's. Needless to say, her voice dripped with a brazen coldness.
そりゃあんたの性格は知り抜いてるからね。こういう時の短絡思考はこの2年で経験済みよ。お行儀がいいようで面倒になったらあっさり投げ捨てるのがあんたでしょ。いやね、人聞きの悪い。
Effortlessly, she brushed aside Aoko's jab. Doing so, Sojo had the distinct impression that she no longer even realized he was in the room.
はっ、それで今日まで何度煮え湯を飲まされたことか。青子に譲ると言ったけど、よく考えると面倒だから私の方で処理しておいたわ。なんて言い訳、もう聞き飽きたっつーの。短期なのはそっちの自由だけど、それなら後の始末は相方に任せるのが最低限の筋ってもんじゃないの。そうね。そうでなければ共闘している意味がないわ。まあ、今後の方針を勝手に決めた人のセリフじゃないとは思うけど。それもきっちり型をつけたでしょ。いい？勝ったのは私たちよ。逃げ切れば見逃してあげるって言ったのは誰？言動には責任を持ちなさい、アリス。それとも何？もしかして一番気に食わないのはそのあたりの理由なわけ
Alice frowned slightly and fell silent. Alice may seem to have struck a nerve that Alice herself didn't know was there.
とにかくこいつの扱いはちゃんと目が覚めて本人の意思でどうするか決めるまで保留ってことで合意したでしょ。人の留守中に出し抜くのはやめてよね。それ、青子、学校はどうしたの？まだ正午になったばかりなのに。アリスのとこが今日で終わりって思い出して家庭の事情ってことで早退したのよ。期末試験前だってのにほんと何やってんだか。
She grumbled more to herself than anyone else in the room. Then, locked eyes with Alice. Or more accurately, they glared daggers at each other. The room had become tense once again and felt like a fight could break out at any moment. With no way to escape, Sojo had no choice but to sit and watch. But then, electric silence that seemed like it would last forever suddenly broke about a minute later. Apparently, this sort of clash was an everyday occurrence.
私は今に行っているから彼に事情を説明してあげて。
Much here goes, Sojo cocked his head. In her hand was what could only be described as...
果物ナイフ。
He had no other words to describe the tool she was clutching.
アリス、あえて聞くけどその手に持ってるの何？
I could ask Alice as she walked past.
探検ね、どう見ても。
Alice answered expressionlessly before briskly walking out of the room.
おお。
Thought best not to think too deeply about the scene just witnessed. Good boy. At least he's learning. That's something. At least learning how to deal with witches. Okay. I mean, it seemed like she was considering doing it, but at the same time, it's like, I don't think it was like she was hesitating because like, oh, this is wrong, but probably for another reason. But I don't know. Anyway, why is he out of the bottle? At any rate, the girl in black had withdrawn. Along with her, the feeling of tension. Leaving a bedridden Sojo alone with an Alka still dressed for school. From Soldier's perspective, this was a perfect chance to get answers to his ever-growing list of questions.
わけのわからないことだらけだ、青崎。
でしょうね。順序立てて説明してあげるから、ちょっと黙ってて。顔の麻痺も取れてるし、呼吸も再開っと。これならもう安心かな。どう？調子は。
なんかだるい。
He answered meekly, dropping his shoulders. He opened and closed his left hand a few times, but moving his fingers felt slow and awkward. It was clear it was still in bad shape. Meanwhile, Akko was blinking her eyes in wonder. Or was it admiration? Between Alice and Akko, Sojo didn't know which of the girls was harder to read.
体が重いのは当然よ。丸2日経ってるし、寝てるだけでも体は弱ってるだろうし。
Oh, okay, so it actually has been that long.
でも、もう話せるくらい回復してるとは思わなかった。あんたって見かけより頑丈にできてるのね。
ん？ 2日って？
あれからそれだけ経ってるの。学校には欠席届出しといたから、その点は安心して。ガンドの呪いもダンプティの呪いも、私とアリスとで解除しといたから。
He nodded at the word curse as if recalling it suddenly. It was all coming back to him now.
どうかした？そんな遠い目しちゃって。
ああ、忘れてた。それで2日も寝込んでたのか。怖いもんだな、呪われるってことは。
ほんと緊張感ないわね、あんた。ローのように眠ってたのが嘘みたいよ。下手すると一生あのまま石膏もどきだったかもしれないのに。
ちょっと待った。今すごいこと言わなかったか？
言ったけど、聞かぬが花よ。ま、経緯はどうあれ、後でアリスにお礼を言っときなさい。私じゃ解除できなかったんだから。
ひどい花もあったもんだ。あ、けどアリスっていうのはさっきの子か？遊園地で俺たちを殺そうとした？彼女ずっとそこに座ってたけど、ここは彼女の部屋なのか
？He scanned the room again. He wasn't accustomed to sleeping on anything other than a futon, and the room looked especially foreign to him.
ここはただの客室。長いこと使ってなかったから埃だらけでしょ。それより、アリスと何か話したの？あなた。
いや、あれを会話というのはちょっと。
So Drew said calling it a conversation would be a gross overstatement. And yet, thinking back on it, it seemed like they had talked for hours, which brought an uncomfortable smile to his face.
とはいえ、緊張は解けたと思うよ。青崎がやってくるのがもう少し遅かったらよかったのに。
Right? Akko narrowed her eyes at his innocent slip of the tongue. She knew Soju didn't mean to treat her like a nuisance, but nevertheless she found it hard to take the full brunt of the words said to her face. Even worse, she said she was getting used to his manner of speaking.
でも、だからなのかもね。相変わらず首の皮一枚の人生を送ってるわ、あなたって。だから、あんたはよっぽどアリス好みの対応をしたのよ。まだ生きてるってそういうこと。
ん？
No matter how he tried, he couldn't grasp what she was getting at. he decided to change the subject to something else.
ところでここはどこなんだ？あの子に聞いても教えてくれなかったけど、青崎なら教えてくれるだろ。
ここは三崎町の幽霊屋敷よ。正確には久遠寺邸と言えばいいかしらね。さっきの子、久遠寺アリスの持ち家で私が住んでるところでもある。あの後あなたをここまで持ってきたんだけど覚えてないでしょ？
久遠寺っていう名前は聞き覚えがあるような。そうだ、よく商店街でおじさんたちが話してた。何でも偉いお金持ちだとかなんとか。
それアリスの前ではご法度よ。穏便にここで暮らしたいならね。
お
Confused yet again, Soldier tilted his head for what seemed like the 100th time that day. And once again, he heard something to make him feel uneasy.
青崎、君今なんて言った？
しずきくん、私ね、あからさまな嘘を言う人と同じことを何度も言わせる人と察しの悪い人には容赦しないから。そのあたり覚えておいてね。ここで平穏に暮らしたいなら。
Waiting for a best smile, Akko made a threatening proclamation. Needless to say, it caught Soldier completely off guard.
気のせいならいいんだけど、君の言葉には俺がここに住むような響きが感じられる。
He shot her an honest stare of disapproval. It was the best resistance he could muster. But it was not in the slightest effective against Alko's overpowering, ruthless glare.
あなた、自分の立場を分かってる？
Yeah.
Yeah,
so explain what's going on here, because I think I get what you're getting at, but I'd like to hear it. Consider her words carefully. He wanted to openly express his feelings on the matter, but instead he swallowed his words and shook his head. Despite his typical inability to read people's emotions, he at least seemed to understand the gravity of the situation. It appeared that he finally realized that it was his carefree mood that typically got on Alko's nerves.
ああ、そうだった。あんたに回りくどいこと言っても無駄だったのよね。いいわ。考える時間ぐらいあげたかったけど、時間もないし、はっきりと言ってあげる。いい？しずきくん。この度、あなたは私たちの監視下に置かれることになりました。しばらくはここで一緒に暮らしてもらいます。もちろん、生殺与奪の権利はこちらにあるという条件で。
Blatant tyranny in her voice caused him to sputter. I wish that she would stop smiling and attempt to make it seem any less outrageous.
一緒に住むって青崎とか？
It wasn't the faint expectation of living under the same roof of Alko that flustered him. Rather, he was generally concerned about his own safety. Regardless of how good-natured he was, it seemed like he finally had come to grips with the fact that just escaped death.
とんでもない。冬眠前の熊と一緒に暖を取るようなもんだ。
I mean, at least he understands. She agreed, as blunt a comparison as it was.
たまには的確な比喩をするじゃない。あなたの言う通り、下手なことをしたり決まりを破ったりしたら、今度こそ息の根止めるからね。
Yeah, because unlike in other animes, you do anything wrong here, or it's a bad moment, you're actually dead, like for real. Because if anything, you're just gonna give them the excuse they need to do it.
それと、ここに住んでるのは私とアリスの2人だけよ。
She's enjoying this.
あの子、私なんかより数倍常識ないから。気をつけないと死んじゃうぞ。
Aiko was 100% serious. Oh my god, I'd never seen him this discombobulated before. It was her sincerity that made it all the more believable.
いや。
Obviously, there was no way the victim Sojiro could accept these terms.
待ってくれ。俺にはちっとも青崎がわからない。監視するって言うけど、なんでそんな話になってるんだ？考えられる範囲、悪いこととかしてないし、そもそも俺を見張っても得なことなんて一個もないし、青崎はいろいろ間違ってる。
Yeah.
いや、 それとも魔術師っていうのはみんな青崎みたいなのか。
Nah, if anything, dude, you're probably lucky. If it was anyone else, they'd use you for an experiment, or they would have just killed you outright. Arrogant and selfish were the words that the harmless boy's gaze seemed to imply. Like I felt a headache coming on. Due to his innate easygoing persona, Soju had not thought to question that Aoko being a mage was out of the ordinary.
だからあんたがそういう風に誰はばかることなく私たちのことを言いふらさないかを見張ってんじゃないこの常識なし。
Yeah, especially since we know someone's on the hunt for Aoko, so it's like, if there's anyone else with any information, they'd go after him. It's like, come on. It's like, you were gonna die for knowing the information, so what else do you expect if you're gonna continue living? Aoko flew out of her chair. She'd be doing her best to keep her cool, but it seemed her well of patience had finally run dry. Witnessing Aoko snap, Sojo clapped his hands together.
そうか。青崎が俺を殺そうとしたのは魔術師であることを隠さなくちゃいけないからだったっけ。
Wait, you're seriously telling me you haven't come to terms with that until just now?
うん、それならわかる。監視するのは青崎の秘密のことで、俺の命云々はおまけみたいなものか。
そりゃ本質的に言えばそうだけど身も蓋もないわねその言い方。
But it's the truth. Like, okay, how would you phrase it, Aoko? I'd love to hear how you would phrase it.
けど、それはあまり意味がないんじゃないか。学校もあるし、バイトだってあるんだ。一日中この家から出ないわけにはいかないんだぞ。
In instant, Sojo's objectivity had her stumped, leaving her at a loss for word. Yeah, because I was gonna say, it's like, sure, you can keep a watch of him while at school in a way. I mean, you're not in the same class, but you go to the same school, but yeah, how would you deal with the fact that he goes to work every night? Wouldn't that mean you'd have to basically be with him at work? Or always be tailing him 24/7? That means you don't get to be lazy anymore. You honestly had no idea what position he was in. To believe that he had any sort of freedom at this point was shocking, to say the least.
いや落ち着け私話が早くなってある意味助かるし。
How could someone manage to compose herself? As a matter of fact, she never had any intention of imprisoning him. Stripping him of his freedom and incarcerating him would go against their agreement anyway. Besides, she's gonna go that far, it would just be easier to kill her. See? It's like, if anything, dude, you do one thing that gives them the reason, they'll do it. Like, we've seen how serious they are. To Aoko, letting him live meant showing a modicum of respect to Sojo's way of life.
もしかしてこの部屋から出ちゃいけないのか俺。
Light bulb went on in his head as he blurted out what he was thinking. The PD finally got the grim message. Aoko looked somewhat satisfied his dismay.
大丈夫よ監禁生活なんて面倒なことだけはしないから。
Yeah, besides, that would actually start to interfere with their real personal lives too, and then that would create even more suspicion.
あなたの自由はそれなりに考慮してあります。そのあたりのさじ加減はアリスの手腕に任せてあるから、あなたは心配しなくていいわ。
Oh, right, because she has the bird. Yeah, I guess she could always just get the bird to tail him when he's out working. Gloomy look fell over Sojo's face as he found his concern growing by the second.
いい？あなたの処遇はこの家に住むことを前提にした監視で、それも解決策が見つかるまでの期間限定。何でもいいから目撃者を殺すなんてことより、こっちの方がよっぽど穏便でしょ？だいたいこれは私とあなたとの約束なんだから、いちいち文句言わないでよね。ただでさえアリスとの冷戦が続いてて頭痛いんだから。
She sighed as she stared Sojo down as he lay on his bed.
けど勘違いはしないで。ここじゃあんたの地位は最下層のさらに下、番犬より下なんだから。あんたの生殺与奪はあの夜から私が握ってるんだから。あんたは私に所有されてるようなもんなの。
Damn!
さあこれで自分の立場分かった？
So basically the same at school, but this time it's almost 24/7. As Aoko finished her declaration, Sojo suddenly looked up at the ceiling so she wouldn't notice his reaction. He meant no offense to Aoko, but he had to hide the fact that he fundamentally disagreed with her analogy. In Sojo's opinion, it was disrespectful to both dogs and humans to call him lower than a dog. More accurate analogy of their power dynamic would be a rabbit and a wild boar. Hence why he chose not to voice his opinion. See, he's getting smarter. Unlike his apartment, the ceiling here was decorated with ornate patterns. Putting aside how you'd be treated here in terms of lodging, it was a definite upgrade. Maybe it wouldn't be all that bad. Not slowly as if to persuade himself. And
とりあえず命は助けてあげるから。
that's what she told him. Not 2 days ago.
あまり納得したくないけど、自分の立場は分かったよ。うん、確かにそんな約束だった。いろいろと言いたいことはあるけど、それは認めるしかない。だけど、君たちと一緒に住めっていうのは本気なのか？青崎は細かいことは気にしないとしても、さっきの子は嫌がりそうだし、俺だって少しは。
At that point, he zipped his lips. His eyes were tinged with blood. Oh, God damn it, man!
あら、しずきくんはご不満？
Dude, you don't get the right to complain. Did you forget you're lower than a dog? I could try and smile so obviously forced struck despair into Sojo's heart. Come to think of it, he vaguely recalled her warning to him to not make her repeat herself. Furthermore, as a practical matter, Sojo Suzuki's life was now in the hands of Aoko Aozaki. It'd be unwise to anger her further, I told myself as if speaking to a third person.
いや、別に。だってそれ以外ないんだろ。
None, Aoko said with a firm nod of her head. Except the shoulders in surrender.
うん。青崎の言い分は分かった。ただ、一応聞いておきたいんだけど、俺の人権はどこに行ってしまったんだろう。
You're gonna ask her that question? Well, actually, I'm curious. What is she gonna say? I would think she'd say, fuck no! But I wanna hear it.
バカね。そんな形のないものなんて初めからあるわけない
There
でし
we
ょ。
go.
つまんないこと言わないでよ。
That's the outcome I know. See, I love it. She's not holding anything back. That's what we need more of. We need more main character women actually doing this shit. Firing shots all the time, not holding anything back. Come on. Need more people like her in Velvet across the scene in more games. Come on. Especially as a protagonist. Come on. Sojo reflected upon her answer, now feeling like his question was indeed stupid. He should have already known the answer before he asked.
ああ、だと思った。そんな気はしてたんだ。目が覚める前から。
ん？
His muttering provoked a dubious stare from Alco before she quickly retracted it. If she questioned every little thing he said, they would be there until sundown.
とにかく納得いったみたいね。じゃあ次、いよいよ本題。今に移動するわよ。説明って一人で立てる？
さっきから手を動かしてたから血は巡ってる。歩くぐらいならいけそうだ。
そう、なら問題ないわね。
But then she turned her back and walked away from him. He had seen this bold form of hers many times before. Instantly, the memories flashed back to him like lightning.
そうだった。青崎はこういうやつだった。
Without knowing it, he cracked a smile. He was so lost that he didn't know his left from his right. Recalling this alone was enough to calm him. Naoko he knew was different from the one in the House of Mirrors. She wasn't that brooding girl he saw there. He felt a pang of nostalgia. Naoko he knew was brisk in movement and faltering in gaze, just like this one. She was the same as when he first met her, moody yet overflowing with confidence in her element. Yo, what's up, Skydan? Skydan GD. Hope you have a good day. Welcome to the stream.
ほら、急いだ急いだ。アリスがさっきから居間でお待ちかねよ。
She was already outside the door, sitting in the chilly corridor.
寝たきりの辛さを知らないだろう、青崎は。
Grunting and groaning, Sojiro eventually got to his feet. His body, having stiff while he was lying down, cried out in pain as he tried to stand and walk. Every step sent shooting pains through his bones. Despite this, he put on a calm face and made his way toward Alko. Typically, he was quick to not pay any mind to life's little struggles. These pains, he needed to force himself to consciously ignore them. No, I missed the part where it says mentioned Lord. Oh, okay. I was like, well, what's that no? Is that it sounded like a despair no? Oh, I see. Yeah. You missed the big punchline. Okay, I love how she just blatantly just said that out in the open with no hesitation whatsoever. But that's my outgo for you. In other words, he was displaying false bravado, an uncharacteristic reaction for someone who never suppressed their true feelings.
驚いた。あんた本当にタフね。
ありがとう。けど心は弱いんだ。
参考までに心に留めておくわ。できるだけ優しく扱えるようにね。
Akko is something else? Nah, she definitely is a something else. She's a different beast, and I love it. Like, seriously, we need more female protagonists like her, man. Or Miss? I don't know. I try to keep it more generalized. Consider it. Whatever, anyway. Naturally, her voice was devoid of any true empathy. She turned away from the once more dejected Sojiro and began walking briskly down the corridor. Can't wait for the movie? No, I agree. That's kind of why I'm playing this now. It's like, I heard there was a movie and I'm like, shit. I actually want to, because I want to go through this first and then compare it to the movie. Because if I just watch the movie first and then that, it'd be like Persona 3 all over again. And it's like, don't get me wrong, Persona 3 Reloaded was still great, but it's like, I probably definitely would have felt a lot more emotion towards certain scenes if I didn't watch it. But again, it didn't really take away too much from the experience anyway. Need to raise my adult money? Just then she stopped. Feet snapped together as though something had popped into her head. And just as if she was remembering something she had forgotten, in a completely trivial way,
それじゃあ行くわよ。ついてきて、宗十郎。
she gallantly turned back the way she was heading, the words sounding so natural as she spoke them. Hoki didn't see the look in Sojiro's eyes as he heard her words. For though she worked in the arcane, the spell Akko had woven was apparent to everyone but her. To blink his eyes as if blinded by something, Sojiro casually nodded and followed behind her. Sheer size of the interior was daunting. 3 floors of this mansion contained more rooms than Sojiro's entire apartment building. Except their size was excessive. Here, the mansion's rooms seemed too numerous for so few inhabitants. Its lavish carpeted halls, cold and dreary. The guest room that Sojiro had been sleeping in was on the 2nd floor of the east wing. The staircase leading down to the 1st floor was at the end of the corridor at the center of the mansion. Winter sunlight beamed through the windows, which only made the empty corridor appear even lonelier. The center of the mansion was topped by a vaulted skylight overlooking the 1st floor. The staircase connecting the 1st and 2nd floor lined its walls. Another staircase at the other end of the 2nd floor corridor presumably led to an attic, or storeroom of sorts on the 3rd floor. Paying no mind to Sojiro's gawking, Oka descended the stairs with familiar steps. The foyer was a place of white and wood grain. Its hardwood floor shone brightly under the sunlight coming in from the ceiling. And the tall white walls were spotless and brawny. There was a staircase leading to the 2nd floor, a long unused fireplace. A neglected telephone sat on the table, opposite a solemn grandfather clock. It's more like an old castle than a mansion. Hakusa shot Sojiro Calistare, who stood captivated by the otherworldly scenery.
今はこっちよ。ぼさっとしない。
She grabbed the knob of the door next to the stairs. There were 4 doors to the foyer, and the easternmost as you entered the house led to the drawing room. The door on the opposite side of the foyer led to the mansion's west wing. To the south was the entrance. On the north side was one more door next to the fireplace. Tucked underneath the stairs, this door was connected to a bathroom unbeknownst to Sojiro. Due to the lack of windows, the first floor's corridors are not well lit. If the second floor was a seldom attended infirmary, and the foyer a stairwell in some foreign castle, then the first floor corridor was a windowless labyrinth, unlike the corridors of a hotel. Although it hadn't been long since Sojiro came to the city, even he could feel this place was out of the ordinary. Seeing as how he's going to be stuck here for the foreseeable future, he found it hard to get excited about living in a haunted house.
そこが今で、奥が厨房ね。簡単な料理ぐらいはできるようになってるから。今の隣にはサンルームがあるんだけど、ここが食卓の代わり。って、そんなの後でいっか。
Haku said, reaching for a door along the dim corridor. However, she paused before turning the knob. Flashed Sojiro a meaningful glance, which she quickly withdrew. Then, without further ado, she opened the door.
お待たせ。承諾したわよ。
She said to Alice as she entered the drawing room. After hesitating for a moment, Sojiro entered after her. Compared to the corridor, the drawing room was unexpectedly modern. The carpeted floor, leather sofas, and a large 30-inch television were more what Sojiro had come to expect in a normal home. In this family-oriented room, a girl far removed from setting sat quietly on the sofa. Aoki sat on the sofa across from the girl in all black. This gave Sojiro 2 seating options. Next to Aozaki, or next to Alice Kuonji. Oh, right. This is kind of going to establish basically like who we trust more in the household, and it's going to upset the power balance here. After about 2 seconds deliberation, he decided to stand by the wall. As neither option appealed. Smart boy. Very smart boy. Because I was going to say, like, you know it's going to be bad if you actually have to pick one of the 2. So it is smarter to just make a third option. Olga and Alice were facing each other across the coffee table. The clean, perfectly level table somehow added to the austere atmosphere.
当事者も認めたことだし、これで何の問題もないわね、アリス。
Alice gave one deep nod in response to her non-question. From his position against the wall, they looked as though they were clearing up some grievance. Sojiro got the feeling that the 2 did not entirely see eye to eye concerning what to do with him.
そうね。原因も究明しないといけないし。
She cast a sideways look at Sojiro with those dark, shaded eyes of hers. Her voice shared the same cold indifference, making it abundantly clear that she had no intention of accepting him as a housemate.
けれど、あなたはそれでいいの？遊園地でのことを忘れてはいないでしょ？
Alice's voice was a mixture of judgment and scrutiny. She was aware that from an outsider's perspective, she and Aoko appeared dangerous. She wanted to know if Sojiro was up to the challenge of living with such people.
そりゃ夢だと思い込みたいけど、ちゃんと覚えてるし、できるだけ無事に済ませるにはこれが一番無難そうだ。
Above all else, it was the only way they would let him live. Alice responded apathetically with a non-committal murmur. She silently placed a small object on the table with a clink. She pulled her pale fingers away from the small glass bottle. The glass, more pale blue than transparent, was enough to signify its high quality. For crane-like motion, she removed the stopper. Even though this was the first time he had seen such a thing, something about it made him uneasy. Was it that it made him sad, or... Ako's standoffish behavior only added to his concern. Alice once again fixed her eyes on Sotro, who was bracing himself for the worst. The glint in her eyes was bewitching. Not a single emotion apparent on her face, she called his name.
しずきくん。
はい。
Wow, so he was easy to trap this time too. Okay. I guess he really lowered his guard down. The moment he responded to her whispered call, his surroundings began to transform. The air grew thick, so thick it took on a color and shape. The density and discomfort that coiled around his skin made it seem like the air had become words. Opening his mouth to gasp for air, the words invaded his lungs. Instinctively, he covered his mouth with his right hand and clutched his chest with his left, with hands appearing clear as mud. Even the thickest of mountain fogs never seized his senses like this. We had to come up with an analogy. No words could quite describe it, but it was like he was standing in the pages of a newspaper. First sense to adjust to this setting was his hearing. Then his breathing stabilized, yet the feeling of suffocation remained. Something was straining him that he could see, but he felt an intense claustrophobia. Before he even felt shock at the sudden change, he reached down in an attempt to find an escape. His outstretched hands only found emptiness. It seemed contradictory that a place with no walls and a wide view could feel so cramped. Spirited away in a dense fog? Back in the mountains, such superstitions never seemed real to him. Until now. And then, he finally noticed. Surprised to beat all surprises. The drawing room hadn't changed into another world at all. He knew this for certain because he still see the room he was just in through the fog, as well as the two girls, Ako Aozaki and Alice Kuonji, watching him closely. Simply a problem, perspective. The floor was dark and perfectly flat. Looking up, there the two of them stood. Two girls were like two impossibly gargantuan clowns coldly looking down at him. Remembering the structure of the room and layout of the furniture, Sojour's unsurpassed candor finally grasped his predicament. The parade at the amusement park had nothing on this. Somehow, he was inside the glass bottle that Alice Kuonji produced only moments ago.
図らずも。
Marveling at Alice's wickedness, Alco glanced at a small bottle on the table.
2日前の夜と同じ状況になったわね。今回そいつは起きてるけど。
Alco calmly mused. Alice, however, was not looking down at the bottle. Instead, her eyes were locked on Alco.
意外ね。青子は怒ると思ってたのに。
いや、私も似たようなこと考えてたから。少しは魔術ってもんを思い知らせておかないと困るでしょ。アリスがやってくれるなら止めはしないし、怒りもしないわ。ま、こっちが予定していたものより何倍もめちゃくちゃだけど。
Alco didn't take her eyes off the bottle as she spoke. Something's going on. Although she did her best to feign indifference toward Alice's magecraft, she didn't completely hide her curiosity. The figure inside the bottle, likely having caught on to what was happening, tried various things like flailing its arms and spinning around. The surface of the bottle was cloudy, so it was hard to make out exactly what was happening inside.
ところで、これって私にくれたやつとは別物みたいだけど。
Yeah, like what the hell? Why couldn't you have given us this one?
あれより作りは細かいわ。
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess so, because it's a much more clear bottle.
青子にあげたのは使い捨ての隔離するだけのものよ。これはお互いの声も聞こえるから。
Really?
へえ。けど、その割には何の反応もないわね。
Yeah.
青子には聞こえないだけよ。
Then what's the point? What do you mean two-way communication? Isn't it just one way then? I said calmly, finally dropping her gaze to the bottle. Just then, the figure inside stopped moving. It appeared only Alice had a connection to the world inside the bottle. Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess it makes sense, because it's using her magic to create that vessel.
なんだ、術者にしか特典はないんだ。
She probably would have tried to like make herself seem like a demon lord trapping the hero in a bottle. Alco sighed, losing interest. Ignoring Alco, Alice opened her mouth as if to speak to someone not altogether there.
どう？これでも一番無難だと思う？
The person she was talking to was none other than the one inside the bottle. She was, of course, referring to Sojo's earlier comment. It was her way of testing the boy who implied that living in this mansion seemed safe.
いきなり小瓶に閉じ込めて聞き返すあたり容赦ないというか、この子の洋館への執着も問題よね。
Then again, considering Echo had invited this witness to a house of mirrors for a fight to the death, she wasn't in a position to criticize. She'd make sure Alice didn't let her emotions get the best of her, but for now she was content to observe as a bystander. After a moment, Alice's expression changed. She must have gotten an answer to her question. Without any way to tell what the situation was inside the bottle, Echo had no idea what the answer was, however. Only that Alice's face was one she had made when the boy she was talking to said what she wanted to hear.
私が言えることでもないけど。
For an instant, she glanced at Alco. Suddenly shaking her head, she reached for the small bottle.
ほんと、物好きね、しずきくんは。
She said his name with what seemed like a forlorn frown. As soon as she removed the stopper, the air in the room quivered. Sorry, I'm just checking something on my keyboard. Nothing serious. The boy had been casting a shadow on the wall until a minute ago, now leaning against it for support again. I could turn to faint Sojo right behind her, resting her elbow over the back of the sofa.
どう？気分は？
見ての通り、めちゃくちゃだ。
The answer with unusual hostility. Wow, okay, damn. Akko was reminded of his strange behavior, and she was sure that he would be scared or shocked, not angry.
夢で似たようなものを見てなかったら、今頃心臓が止まってたところだ。そこはついてたと思う。信じられないのは、なんでいちいち実践するかってことだ。魔術は怖いものなんだって言えば済むだろうに。
Well, you know what they say.
物騒な青崎の声、聞こえてたぞ。
物騒で悪うございました。けど、言葉じゃなくてきちんと実感してもらいたかったのは本当よ。どう？魔術ってもんを甘く見てたでしょ、宗十郎。
As much as he hated to admit it, she was right. Though it wasn't that he had taken magecraft lightly, but merely that he couldn't understand it.
けど、実感うんぬん言われても困る。これまでの青崎の無茶っぷりと、今のわけのわからなさはとても比べられない。
そりゃそうよ。アリスと比べないでよね。アリスの魔術は私たちの中でもデタラメで、もう言葉にできないぐらい最悪なんだって言ったでしょ。
失礼ね。人命を脅かすという点なら、青子の方がよっぽどひどいと思うけど。
Ah, here we go again.
それよりあなた、本当に彼を殺す気はあったの？一体どんな追い詰め方をすれば、青崎なら多分安全なんて言葉が返ってくるのかしらね。
そんなのあったに決まってるでしょ。こいつが何て言ったか知らないけど、絶対意味違うから。こいつはね、そもそも何が危ないのかやけどするまで気づかない。っていうか、やけどしてもよし死ななきゃ安いなんて本気で思っちゃう天然ボケなの。ね、そうでしょ、宗十郎。
I had no idea why she was suddenly shouting, but not anyway, just to be safe. I mean, it's not wrong either. The drawing room became awfully noisy. Alice sat watching the two at a complete loss. And so Sojo accepted his supervised life in the mansion, and that he'd be living under the same roof as two professional mages. Having experienced firsthand how dangerous that life could get, he was finally at peace with the situation.
まあそういうことなら。
even if he didn't seem like it, he had thought it through in his own way, and came to a clear resolution.
それじゃあやっと本題に入れるわね。監視するとは言ったけど、どうやって宗十郎を監視するのか、そもそもあなたを監視する原因になった魔術とは何なのか、そのあたりざざっと説明させてもらうわ。
Perhaps he was brought up to listen closely to lectures about new information because Sojiro suddenly looked attentive. Alice, on the other hand, kept her mouth shut in silent defiance.
最初に言っておくと、あんたをここに住まわせる期限は決まってるから。要はその期限まで誰にも私たちのことを喋らず、また勝手に死ななければ晴れて自由の身ってこと。ね、そうよね、アリス。
そうね。私たちを怒らせなければそういう可能性もあるわね。
よし、いきなり話が食い違ってる。
Wait, what are you trying to deny, dude? His head dropped like he knew what was coming.
ちょっと黙ってて、アリス。あとあんたも黙ってろ。
She's got to it. I'm already at her wit's end.
話を続けるけど、秘密保持のためにあんたを住まわせる場合、二次災害はどうしても避けられない。同じ家にいる以上、余計に秘密を見せることになるからね。アリスはそれが嫌なんだろうけど。
Right, because again, you are leaking secrets about the Mage Society to a normal civilian. It's like, there's only so many things you could learn. The thing where Alco, that was one thing, but even more, that'd be way too risky. Now that Akko mentioned it, Sojiro could see her point. For their targeted observation under house arrest, the disclosure of more confidential information was inevitable.
ちょっと待ってくれ。堂々巡りじゃないか、それ。
大丈夫、問題ないわ。だって最後にはここで暮らした記憶ごと私たちのことを忘れてもらうことにしたから。
忘れてもらう？
そう、公園での一件から丸ごと全部忘れてもらう。
Wait, what? Wait, so you actually can do that? Because I was saying, it's like, I'm pretty sure I've seen mages from the Fate series, or at least some of them, capable of that. So if you could do it, then why not just do it already? Was it ineffective against them?
ルーンっていう魔術系統があるんだけどね。その中でサクッと記憶を忘れさせるものがあるのよ。
But how do you do it? Do you like stick it on like a talisman and then put it on his head, or do you have to actually draw the rune on him? Or do you just go out on the air and then chant it and then it actually like affects him like a regular spell?
非人道的であるのは変わらないけど、ま、命を消す代わりに記憶を消すってことで妥協して。
Then why was this not the first option?
青崎、それは。
ない。
悪いけど反論は却下。で、肝心の忘却のルーンなんだけど、私もアリスも専門外だから文献を探して習得するのに時間がかかる。
Oh, okay. Okay, you know what? It makes more sense, because to be fair, it's like, would that really be something that a lot of people could just do? But no. And right, they kind of do just have like their own specialized magecraft for the time being. It's not like they can learn many different kinds, because again, Kyutsugu had his time thing. What was it? Kenneth, right? Or the previous Lord Elmalor? He could basically use that weird matter that he could use as like a lance and stuff like that, or like as a wall. So yeah, I guess it's like you would need a specific way to go about it. Okay, so it's not just something that just everyone knows. It's just stuff that certain people. Well, unless you were a caster servant, then maybe you could, because as a caster servant, you'd specialize in many different spells.
つまり、それが監視の起源ってわけ。
I see. Yeah, because I was gonna say, it's like, if this was an option, why not just have done it already?
私たちが忘却のルーンを見つけるまで、命を担保に口を閉じていてもらうわ。
Wait, what do you mean find the rune? Is it like, it has to be like, it has a physical manifestation, you have to obtain it? Or is it just that you have to find it from study? I'm kind of confused.
アリスはそんなややこしいことはせずに、五感全部壊してしまおうなんて言ってるけど。
Yeah.
しずきくん、リビングスタチューとか嫌でしょ？
He only understood about 80% of what Alco had explained. The last part about a living statue had gone straight over his head. He tried his best to visualize what Alco was going on about, but the only thing he could conjure in his mind was the image of the mascot creature Kitsy.
それは確かに嫌だな。
Exactly, so accept it. Alco agreed with the bewildered Sojiro, neither one the wiser to the other's misinterpretation.
とにかく遅くても1ヶ月で忘却のルーンは見つけ出せるだろうし、1回きりの実行ならプラス2ヶ月ぐらいでなんとかなるわ。
Right, because again, you don't know if like maybe you would need certain materials or there's a ritual and then making sure it actually works. And I guess you could just always test it on him until you actually get it right like completely.
それまであんたにはここで暮らしてもらうわけだけど、私たちについて無知のまま歩き回られると命の保証はできないのよ。
そうだな。
そっちもこっちの事情を知らないのは気持ち悪いだろうし。なんで今から簡潔に現代の魔法使いの何たるかを教えてあげる。それで少しは私たちへの勘違いもなくなるだろうし。
Not that she thought this country bumpkin had any idea of old or new anyway. The thought brought a smug grin to her lips.
洋館のことは後にして、まずは私たちの立場についてね。あ、でも1から100まで理解する必要はないから。
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna forget anyway.
どうせ門外漢なんだし、漢字言ったことだけしっかり噛み締めておきなさい。
He nodded obediently to Alka's professional instructions. This was Alka's way of telling him not to ask questions when he didn't understand something. And though Sojiro had taken issue with her statement, he meekly obeyed, knowing better than to object now. She nodded approvingly in his attentiveness and started her lecture. Her long, long lecture.
まず魔術師、魔法使いの話からね。
Oh, do we actually get the whole lecture? I actually do kind of want this because, again, it's like, I need a better understanding of what exactly is going on in this world.
魔術と魔法の違いは、宗十郎には関わりのない話だからしないけど、それぞれ別種のものだと思ってくれればいいわ。
Yeah, because to be fair, that'd be a very, very, very long story.
で、魔術師のことだけど、これは絶対条件として隠された存在でなくてはならないの。同業者に知られるのは仕方ないとしても、あなたみたいに関わりのない人間に知られるのは罪に当たる。ほとんど死罪クラスのね。なぜかっていうと、魔術ってのは隠されていないと力が薄れてしまうものだから。神秘の語源は閉ざすというギリシャ語だけど、魔術は限られた水着でなければ魔術でなくなってしまう。
Oh, is that how it is? Oh, so it really does actually have like a serious weight to it. Because again, it's like, why are they making this out as such a big deal? It's just one person. But I see, if the subject of it exists, then it starts to actually have less effect. I guess it's kind of the opposite from how it was for Umineko, right? Because again, the more that you try to deny it, then like there was something mystical that happened. But if you could find a way to disprove it, then it wouldn't have anything. I see. But very interesting that it would cease if the secrets are revealed. But I guess it makes sense, right? Because again, it's supposed to be something fantastical. And if it's not really evoking that sense of a fantasy, then it kind of just loses its impact. Well, at least that's just a very callous and broad way of saying it. And to be fair, it's probably not even the right analogy to use, but that's just a way for me to kind of understand what this rule is implying.
文明にとって未知なるもの、未開なるものは開かれていないからこそ恐怖に値するのと同じね。知られたら迫害されるから隠すじゃないの。未知で亡くなった魔術師というより魔術ね。
Right, because again, it's like they even said, just when it comes to evoking simple spells, there's a whole process to go about it, right? And there were even circumstances and conditions to even use it, and that can block you from actually completing it. So if that was to be known, then it would just make them a lot less effective, because then it's like, oh, I just had to create a situation in which you can't use your spell, and then that's it.
明かされた魔術は力を弱めてしまう。だから隠匿するのよ。何より私たちの未来のために。
That actually is very interesting that it's like their thing getting revealed actually does make it weaker. But again, I guess that goes to show why they even need an association like the Mage Association, right? Why would you need such a big group like that if it's such a big, or if it's not that big of a deal? Like, you could just have anyone go rogue and out in the open, just mix into a modern part of society, but that's the problem. You can't for that very reason.
魔術の仕組みはよくわからないけど、とにかく自分だけの秘密でないと弱くなるってことか。じゃあ青崎も弱くなってるのか？俺が見ちゃったから。
いいえ、別に。ここからはちょっと込み入った話でね。弱くなるっていうのはあくまで全体。それも随分と未来の話。個人単位では関係のない話よ。
Okay, no. Okay, yeah. So it's what I was saying before is like as a long-term thing, not like actually physically affecting a person.
汝、陰徳すべしって不分律は、この大元の仕組みが形骸化して、いつの間にか絶対のルールになっているだけなの。文明社会の法律と一緒よ。犯罪、不道徳を罰するのは、人間的であろうとする意識の高さと、それとは全く別の全体の仕組みを守るための構造的な結論でしょ。
Right.
犯罪が罰せられるのは、野放しにしたらせっかく築いた社会がうまく機能しなくなるから。で、私たちにとって犯罪にあたるのは神秘の一般化、低俗化であって、不道徳とか殺人とかはまあそれぞれの良心次第ってことで、基本的に罪にもならない。
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of already seen that a couple times already, right? That's like, it depends on the circumstances.
そんなろくでもない連中にルールを敷いたのが魔術協会っていう集まり、組合みたいなものよ。魔術を普及の神秘とせよというのは、魔術を魔術として永続させるために敷いたルールに過ぎないわ。
I see. So this is like their way of making sure that like technically the age of the gods hasn't like completely disappeared, right? That kind of atmosphere that it creates or the environment that it does, it's dwindled to a point, but it's not gone yet. But it will be if they continue like this.
けど、その原則は絶対でさ、これを破った者は魔術世界にはいられなくなる。いえ、実際問題として生きていくのが困難になる。私たちは私たちの、まあ魔術師としての命、そういうのを守るために目撃者であるあんたを消さなくちゃいけなかった。そこ、同情とかしなくていいから。私たちの事情を知ったぐらいで遊園地のことを帳消しにしないでよ。
Yeah.
私たちは私たちの判断であんたを殺そうとしたんだから、誰彼のせいってわけじゃない。
Yep.
恨むならきちんと私を恨んでちょうだい。
You know, that's actually kind of respectable from you, Alko. Because yeah, it's like it was just to do what they're supposed to. That's just the life of a mage. And again, she's not saying like, oh, that's just how it is, just accept it. But she's like, now you know, but in your mind, you can still think as like how normal humans do. It's like, you want to blame someone, blame me. Like she literally just saying. I respect that a lot because again, she's at least coming to an understanding from his perspective as an ordinary civilian.
ま、それはともかく、過去、魔術師は職業として成り立ったぐらい社会に認知されていたけど、その魔術自体は墓まで持っていく秘密だった。
Yeah, selfish bastards. But I mean, I get it. You don't want anyone to defile your craft that you've worked so hard on and that's been passed from like bloodline to bloodline and such and such.
それがどう歪んだかは知らないけど、現代ではその職業すら秘密にしなくてはならなくなった。そこまでしないと、遠い未来、魔術すら消費するだけのものに解体されると、教会は恐れたのよ。自然界の仕組みも、かつて天上の領域だった宇宙の運営すら、私たちは人知で解き明かせるほどになった。人の手に余るもの、 神秘という未知の領域にとって魔術が最後の砦になると教会の設立者は信じたのかもしれない。それとも魔術なんてもう意味がないって達観したのかもね。そんなわけで魔術師はその正体を隠して各々の秘技を伝えていった。他人に教えるわけにはいかないから必然的にその伝承者は子孫になる。私もアリスもそうやって何代か続いた連中の末なのよ。さっき言った魔術協会っていうのはそんな細々と続いてる連中を束ねる一大組織。魔術師にとって司法の神ってところかしらね。教会もいろんな派閥に分かれるんだけど、大抵の魔術師はロンドンの魔術協会に属している。汝隠匿すべしっていうのも教会の三大原則の一つよ。魔術師が一般人に秘密を漏らすと教会から罰が下される仕組みになっている。そんな罰なんかなくても自分と血族が伝えた魔術のために目撃者は消さないといけないんだけど。
Okay. Yeah, so it's like the association would get involved in the worst case scenario because again, it's like they said, it's like if it starts to get too more widespread, then again, in the long term, the age of the gods will be completely gone or out of reach, I guess, which is fair. I see. So that's another reason, I guess, because Alice has like a lot of pride in her craft because it's like it's supposedly a lost craft, right? Like her thing with fairy tales and such. So she was to lose that, probably be like dishonor to the family name and such. Hence why she was so adamant on eliminating Suzuki. And that, oh yeah, but Sojo was doing his best to process the information.
次行くけどいい？
いいけど、その前に確認したい。魔術師が正体を隠すのは自分のためじゃなく魔術のためだったけど、最近では自分の正体を隠すことの方が重要になっている。
Yep.
そして、その決まりを破ると、教会というところからお咎めが来る。
Yeah.
つまり、青崎たちもその教会に入っているのか？
いいえ、私たちはフリーよ。一応教会とつながりはあるけどね。
Yeah.
単純に教会は最大勢力ってだけ。連中は頼まれもしないのに魔術世界全体の秩序を守ってるの。
Yeah, it's just how it be.
だから私たちが何であれ彼らとの関わりがないにしても魔術師としての決まりを破ったら罰しに来るわ。
Yep.
わかった。大体飲み込めた。
よしよし。そうやって自分に必要な部分だけ手に入れなさい。じゃ、次は魔術について。と言っても、私自身語れるほど学んでいないんだけどね。ごめん、こっちの話だから忘れて。さっきも言ったけど、現代において魔術は無意味なものになりつつある。ライターのない大昔なら、火を起こせれば、それは魔術として成り立つわ。けど今は何かと便利でしょ？あなたならよくわかると思うけど。
He nodded with a glum look on his face. He had been made painfully aware of such conveniences. Difficult tasks that would occupy an entire day of work in the mountains could be performed easily here. For him, having been brought up in the mountains without electricity or running water, city life was by definition magic. He only wished it would not be such backbreaking work to adapt to said conveniences.
でも、道具を使わずに火を起こせるのは神様の仕事だと思うけど。
そのために積み重ねた手間は火炎放射器を手に入れるより面倒だとしても？
He wasn't sure how to answer Aoko. It would have been easy for him to ask Aoko how much accumulated effort she thought it had taken humans to imitate those gods. But he knew it would come across as an insult.
さっきのを見る限り、魔術ってのは何でもできると思ったけど、それは誤解なのか。
Oh, right, okay, so we're explaining this part to him. Right. Glanced at the glass bottle on the table. Mentally, he sighed a relief. He still not come to terms with the fact that he had been trapped inside that tiny thing. However,
あら、それこそ誤解よ。万能じゃなければ誰が魔術なんて学ぶと思ってるの？手間暇かかるけど魔術にできないことはないわ。中にはできていないけどできているように見せるみたいな何らかのイカサマはあるけどね。この世界に生まれた以上、その許容範囲でできないことなんてないの。そこで魔法が出てくるんだけど、それはまた改めて。私が言いたかったのは、魔術は奇跡を起こしているのではなくて、その過程が奇跡だってこと。結果が奇跡になるのは魔法の方なの。偉大な魔術師っていうのは、個人の魔術だけで旅客機飛ばしたりする人のこと。対して偉大な魔法使いっていうのは、今不可能なことを可能にする人のことよ。そういった意味じゃ、私たちは最後の魔法使いになるかもしれないけどね。
脱線してるわよ、青子。
Alice had been quietly listening until she muttered a rebuke, as if Hako had crossed the line.
そこまで教える必要はないでしょう。しずきくんに教えるべきことは、私たちと暮らす上で危険になることだけじゃなかった。
悪かったわ。ちょい口滑らせた。ともかく、魔術師っていうのは、暇さえあれば魔術の実験をしてる連中で、自分の家系が伝えてきた秘技を守るためなら、鬼でも悪魔にでもなる。必然、そのアジト、工房って言うんだけど、工房も魔術的な機構が積み重なって要塞みたいになっちゃうのよ。秘技を守るために入ってきた相手を問答無用で叩きのめす仕掛けとか。この洋館もそういった工房と同じなの。不用心に歩き回ってさっきみたいなことになったら私でも助けてあげられないから、暗闇には気をつけなさい。気がついたら鏡の中にいるとか本気であるから。
Sudra hoped that he provided with a more general idea of what to watch out for, but he passed, knowing that he was unlikely to get a straight answer.
枝葉から入っちゃったけど、要は私たちのプライベートに関わるなってこと。いくら最後には記憶を消すって言っても、それを見られた段階で消すしかないものもあるから。
なるほど。この中にもルールがあることはよくわかった。他に注意すべきことは。
His eyes wandered as he trailed off mid-sentence, pondering. He understood that the mansion was more dangerous than outside, and that Magecraft needed to stay secret. But the explanation seemed to contradict his current problem. For starters, how would he manage to witness something that they took such pains to keep hidden? Yes, thank you! That's the point. It's like, how? And I think that's what Alice was alluding to before they started the conversation, when she was like, I need to determine the cause. Like, how did that happen? He shouldn't have normally even been able to be in there, right? Or they should have at least detected him before the incident. But why didn't it work?
すまない。話の腰を折るんだけど、いいか。魔術師は教会という組織で結ばれてるんだろ？なら、どうして青崎はあんな人形に襲われたんだ？
Right, because again, that is the other thing we're kind of trying to determine. What exactly is going on with that, right? Because it's not like they're being stopped from like saving innocent people. It's like they're directly attacking the Kuonji residents.
あれの持ち主が魔術師なら、君たちは味方同士で争っていることになる。何か説明が不足していないか？
それは最後にしようと思ってたのよ。
Right, because it's not that simple.
普通はここまでの話だけで眉唾者っていうか笑い飛ばすっていうか、いくら経験済みだからって魔術なんてもんをあっさり受け入れるなんてできないっていうか。
She She scratched her head as though troubled by how Sojiro could take every word at face value. Across from her, Alice's face betrayed no expression, but she shared the same opinion.
おかしいのかそれ。
Well, yeah, you'd all just think it was one big dream and we were fucking messing with you.
おかしいわよ。そもそもあんたは第一ステップから変だった。
But that might be why you can accept it, though.
普通は驚いたり怖がったり無視したりするものなのに、どうして魔法使いだなんて言った私を信じたの？
I guess probably because he's like still learning, right? Like, compared to everyone else who's kind of already established themselves in their new lifestyle since they were probably born into like this new era, he kind of hasn't, because he's already started kind of having to adapt to new wonders and stuff. So it's like anything that's still a wonder now wouldn't necessarily be as a surprise, because again, he kind of already had to deal with a form of culture shock. This is technically, in some aspects, a different case of culture shock, but just in a much more ambiguous way. But again, that's why I think is at least the case as to why he's not that surprised. At least that's my thoughts on it. In retrospect, this question should have been posed at the House of Mirrors. Back then, though Sojiro was surprised by seeing the phenomenon of magecraft for the first time, he showed no surprise or discomfort toward Aoko, the mage wielding it. Feeling the probing stares of the two mages, made Sojiro feel uneasy. From where he was standing, the suspicion was suspicious in and of itself.
何でも何もない。青崎、山ではね、あるものはあるのが当たり前なんだよ。理由をつけられるだけの知識がなかったからにしても、実際に見たものを信じないなんてことはないんだ。
Right, because, I mean, to be fair, that could also technically be another reason, right? Because he kind of has to adapt to a situation to survive out there. It's not necessarily so different. It may be a bit more of a new process and a bit longer of a process, but it's not necessarily so different, where it's like they don't have time to really observe, practice, demonstrate, and then actually be able to put that into practice, because there's less of a... What's the word I'm looking for? There's less safeties put onto life in that sense compared to just living in modern society. Like, it's the truth. Like, think about it. Like, you have to deal with animals, sickness, without having regular medicine, like Sudafed and all that stuff off the counter and stuff like that. It's like, it's a lot more of a dangerous life than you have to think. And again, it's like, without the convenience of, oh, you can just get it the next day, or it's only a couple minutes away by car. It's not the same thing. Like, just when you see in documentations like how people used to live back then, if he was too adapted to this normal life, it would definitely be a completely different story, for sure. But I get what he means by this.
それに君も言ったろ。あなたにとっては魔法もライターも同じものなんだろうって。
Yeah, because again, that's the same thing. It's like a lighter would probably be as shocking to him as magic. Like, no way, you actually can make a fire that simple? They weren't really the same to him anymore, he added quietly before shutting up. What he said about those innocent days in the mountains had come from the heart. And the words resonated with not only Aoko Aosaki, but also Alice Kuonji. It was something everyone should have. Principles to stand by. Indeed, to this boy, those words were an unshakable truth.
あるものはあるか。
You know, I will say, I do like how they're doing this for Sojiro, because again, it's like, he's just as much an anomaly himself, but just the opposite. Where it's like, these two are detached from modern society, but in a much greater perspective? Like in the world of magecraft and such? He is so detached from modern society, but in the opposite side of the spectrum. It's like, that's the kind of common ground that they can kind of have. These kind of wonders, it's like, it's not so wondrous, like, when comparing, like, to the middle ground that is modern society. Like, if anything, either side, depending on where you're looking from the spectrum, like, from each end to modern society, or modern society to the other side of the spectrum, is just that much greater of a shock. She was impressed, if only slightly. If this boy, no matter how much of an outlier he was, could accept the things around him, you'll be able to get through this just fine. But anyway, like I was saying about what I like what they're doing with Sojo, I really like how they're not gonna go the route of like, oh, he's seen this before, or like maybe a long time ago, back in his childhood, or not necessarily in a way that's like, oh no, I'll just accept it just because I'm probably the male protagonist. It's not that kind of bullshit. But not just because like he feels like he's special, that it's like, oh, okay, I can just handle it. I've been through all this now. Why should it matter now? It's not. It's like it's just natural to him because of his circumstances. And I like how they're really backing it up here because again, it makes him feel more unique compared to how they try to go about this much of a change in other characters, especially like a lot of other shonen protagonists, or even just a lot of other main side characters as well. But this way of transitioning to it, I actually like the way they're going about it. Like I said, it's a very unique way of doing it, but it's a very thorough way of doing it too. And it's one that feels sound and doesn't just feel like an excuse or kind of a lazy way to go about like how that person's now going to interconnect into this whole story and this whole new quote-unquote world that they're becoming a part of.
そうね。宗十郎はそうなのよね。簡単に信じてもらえることが信じられないなんて私たちの方がどうかしてたわ。
Much like when Aoko met Sojiro for the first time. In that classroom on his first day, Sojiro took everything that was happening in his stride. The memory brought a bitter smile to Aoko's face. Alright. But now the third part.
じゃ、気を取り直してっと。
Yep.
宗十郎の疑問だけどね。魔術師もいろいろあって、教会に属していない連中もいるの。
Yeah, you can just consider them strays.
こういった連中は教会の目を盗んでやりたい放題で、利益目的で他の魔術師に喧嘩を売ってくる。
Yeah.
あの人形の持ち主もその類。
I wonder what this mage is actually after, right? Because it's like they wanted to eliminate Aoko. It didn't really seem in the sense that it's like, oh, they wanted to capture her or that they were leading her. No, they just found a unique situation that they found by coincidence and took advantage of it to eliminate her or try to eliminate Aoko. But it's like, for what reason? The only thing I could think of is because maybe they learned that this is the Kuroji residence, or they wanted to make this place their workshop, I guess. I guess that could be it, right? Maybe they don't have a workshop and they're trying to like expand their magical repertoire or whatever. But they can't do it with these other mages here, and they're like, okay, no, I need this. This is gonna be my workshop. Which, to be fair, is a bit selfish, but I mean, come on. These are mages we're talking about. They'll do anything for their magecraft.
そんな連中にとって、私たちは都合のいい格好のカモなのよ。
Yeah, because then they can take their research and then use it themselves, and then enhance themselves as magicians. Or at least as close to an extent as you can be to becoming a magician.
私たちは教会と協定関係にあるだけで、門下ってわけじゃないから。私たちが殺されたところで、教会は助けてくれないしね。
ん？でも、魔術師が魔術を使うのは禁じてるんだろ？
それが公にならないのなら、教会は目をつむるわ。むしろ、バレなければ魔術師同士の争いを奨励してるぐらいよ。技術も使わないと錆びるってね。ま、私たちが襲われてるのはそれとは別の話で、単に土地を持ってるからなんだけど。
土地ってこの家？
まさか。この三崎市一帯の管理地の権利を持ってるのよ。私とアリスは。
管理地って、つまり土地の利権
Wow, Dazzle Sojo looked away. Yeah, I guess to him, they look like kings at the castle, basically. It's crazy. But yeah, now I'm starting to also kind of understand how, like, in a similar case, and I know this is a weird kind of transition to it, but it's like kind of like how in a high school DxD, the Gremmaries and the Citries basically ended up being administrators for Kuo as well. Although they did kind of have to get the permission from what's it called? The Yokai faction. It was still in a similar case where it's like they basically had to be overseers of the entirety of Kuo City. But again, I had to wonder what exactly is the process of going about it. I'd actually like to see, like, how would they accept that these guys would be the next, or be the administrators of this land? Or is this just kind of like some secret rule that is just there, but no one in this entire city knows about it? You were sure you could see a halo of light around Aoko. He'd only been renting an apartment for 2 weeks, but he was already aware how magnificent the prospect of owning land in the city might be.
Oh.
The word Sergio was trying to articulate was rich. Shook all over in emotion he did not fully grasp. Oh yeah, because actually now that I think about it, it would be his first time meeting a rich person too, wouldn't it? So like, first regular people get conveniences, but now he's met people who have conveniences of conveniences.
悪いけど、そういうんじゃないから。私たちで土地って言ったら、魔術師としての霊地の所有権、支配権のことを言うの。
Right, the spirit veins, right? Or the dragon veins as they also call in some ways.
うちはマイナーだけど、古くからこの辺りに根を下ろしてた魔術師で、三崎町もうちの管理下ってわけ。管理地っていうのはね、霊的な力が歪んで集まりやすい土地のこと。そういう土地は昔から貴重で、魔術の実践、実験には不可欠でもある。成功への絶対条件は、優れた霊地、堅固な工房、多くの弟子たちってね。
Right, because that's also kind of the reason why the Holy Grail War even happened in Fuyuki City, right? The shrine, the spirit veins of Fuyuki City as a whole. That's why it was even able to take place in an area like that. And why in Fake Strange Fake, it was kind of weird that they tried to do it in the US, because like they didn't really meet all the conditions, but they manufactured those conditions themselves to make a pseudo Holy Grail War. Which is interesting of itself. But now I also understand that part where Aoko was like, I should have been going to Tokyo. I should have been in the big city, and she ended up here. The reason she's here and not there is because this is the only place where she can practice her mage craft. I see. That does make a lot of sense, because again, it's like, you would need a lot of practice to actually be able to enhance your mage craft, and like she said, you need a suitable place to work, to practice, to tinker, and all that kind of stuff. And this is the only place given to the Aozaki family where they could do all that, and preferably undisturbed. I see.
魔術師たちにとって、土地付き館付きの住み家を持つのは一つの野望なんだから。
Damn. He let her continue while wondering exactly who these two girls were to have achieved both ambitions already.
でも、その管理地は大部分が教会に仕切られてて、もう余っている土地はないの。
Ah, so maybe that's why this person is trying to maybe get rid of them. They want to get this land too, so they have another workshop. Because maybe it's like they do have one, but they want more, or it's not enough. Like maybe what they're trying to pursue is it's too far out of reach from what they're capable of right now, or with the resources that they currently have. However, if they could take this that doesn't belong to the association, no one would really care that much or really try to go after them if they did something, as opposed to if you did it in association sanctioned areas. I see. Okay. That actually does make a lot of sense, because again, it's like, it does seem like they're only really targeting the Aoko and Alice, I think. Or at least, at the very least, Aoko is.
はぐれ魔術師や土地のない魔術師は、教会に毎月寄付金を納めて土地を借りるしかない。ま、手よく教会のお偉いさんたちに尽くす働き蜂ってところね。
I see.
でも、ここの土地は何百年も前から青崎のものだから、教会とは関係がないの。
Right. So that's why these bloodlines have become so important. Like the Elmaloy family, the Tosaka family. Uh, what was the name of that family in Fate Apocrypha? Them too. Because that was the other thing. It's like the association couldn't really interfere with them that much, except to the extent where they actually sent that priest to go deal in that Holy Grail War they were trying to do, and then that whole thing basically happened with like 14 servants and shit, where Amicus Ishiro Tokusada at the head of it all.
ここまで言えばわかるでしょ。そういったフリーの連中からすれば、私たちの管理地はこの上ないごちそうなんだって。
Yeah, basically all you have to do is get rid of these people or find some way to get them off the premises, and then free land, free material, free resources, a free workshop. Why wouldn't you take that? Especially since they're starting to become a dwindling society as well. So it's like, you need all the things you can get of what's even left. Because this is basically like scraps, but it's better to have scraps than absolutely nothing. Sojiro nodded to himself, unsure whether to call the conversation mundane or outright disturbing.
よくわかった。青崎たちは土地の奪い合いをしているんだな。
Yeah, basically.
そういうこと。ただ、岬の管理地はマイナーのさらにマイナーだから、やってくる挑戦者も三流ばっかりよ。今回の敵だって、どっかの三流魔術師が、ここなら楽に奪えると思ってやってきたんだろうし。ま、それもあんたの乱入で休戦してるんだけど。
Ah, okay. I see. That's why they also had to shift their gaze towards Sojiro later on. Because then they realize, oh shit, someone's seen our magecraft. This could be bad for me in the future. Because again, if you were to harm a civilian outside in public, it started to be a problem, because then it's like, what happened? What's going on? There's a mage killer on the loose. But if it wasn't, then that's why, like with the House of Mirrors, it's like, since they're in a closed space and they had all the control, all they really had to focus on was Alco. But in any other setting, it'd be too dangerous for them. I see.
管理地の話はそれで十分よ、青子。しずきくんも他に魔術師がいると分かってくれたようだし、危険があるとすれば私たちの戦いに彼が巻き込まれる可能性だけど。
Right.
それは大丈夫でしょ。だってこいつ魔力のかけらもないじゃない。魔力感知には引っかからないし、番犬以下の人間は戦力って言わないから、狙われることもないだろうし。
Wow. Shots fired, Alco.
私たちはただ忘却のルーンを見つけるまでこいつを逃がさなければいいだけでしょ。
Alice silently sat her partner down. Their ideas of involving Sojiro differed greatly in both gravity and risk. Alco's lack of experience had led her to believe that Sojiro wouldn't get directly involved in any fighting. It was an honest and rational thought. Alco despised wasted action, so it was natural for her to expect the same frugality from her enemies. However, there were those in this world who could not tell right from wrong until it was too late.
先のことは誰にもわからないから、その時になって後悔がなければいいけれど。
With a gloomy sigh, Alice came to her feet.
ちょっと何のために長話したと思ってるのよ。一番重要なあんたの意見聞いてないんですけど。
About
あ
what?
なたがあなたの方針を守るというのならそれでいいわ。私も好きにするだけよ。
Alice glided soundlessly to the door. As the girl in black opened it, she paused, barely lit by the dim corridor. Then, without warning, to the rhythm of her footsteps, a small glass bottle floated in the air and shattered without mercy. What the hell?
あの時こうしておけばよかった。
Her sharp tone made Sojo's face go pale. Elsa's voice was so quiet it was hard to tell if she was being serious or mocking him.
私も言い忘れていたけど。
Her eyes She icily eyed them before turning away, and her voice even colder than a gaze stated.
まだ認めていないから。
Right, because she's only accepting this because she lost the bet, basically. And again, I'm assuming also because she lost control of her quote unquote summon. So it's like this is her way to make it up. But again, it's like for them, it would be better to just erase them. Because again, it's like not only is that happening, but again, like with an enemy on the loose, there's no telling what kind of situation could happen. Frigid departures seem to forebode the many difficulties that lay ahead.
たく、往生際が悪い。
Uncle leaned back on the sofa while holding a piece of epithets. Her face looked even more irritated than usual.
見逃すのとここに住まわせるのは別問題よって。じゃあそれ以外にどんな方法があるってのよ。譲る気もなさそうだし。この分じゃ実力行使に出るかもね、あの子。
Soju threw a wary glance at Uncle while she grumbled.
宗十郎には記憶をなくしてもらうってことで話はつけたけど、心の底から納得してないってことでしょ。アリスにしちゃ珍しく他人を意識してたけど、やっぱりここに住まわせるとなると難しいみたい。
Yeah, I mean, I understand it from her perspective. That's the thing, because again, it's like she's allowing someone else, an outsider, a complete unknown, into her workshop. Well, their workshop, but hers. And her very secret is at risk at all times now. It's like, that's a lot of pressure, because again, it's like, she's also like a very unique type of magecraft and family line. It's kind of hard to say outright that it's like, no, she's just being selfish. But it's like, again, that's the point. She's a mage. That's just their lifestyle. So it's like, can you necessarily say that's wrong? Especially since it's like, in the sense of looking at the bigger picture, it is kind of like he intruded upon this space, and now understanding the truth of at least some of it through the experiences, it's like it's just too much of a risk to keep him around as opposed to, you know, I'm not saying it's right overall, but it's like, again, this is just looking at it from like the perspective of a civilian into the mage world, and the impact of a civilian getting involved in the world of magecraft, specifically in your domain. It's a lot more complicated, and it makes things a lot more difficult for the future.
寝てる分には良かったけど、起きてるあなたを見たらこう、えも言わぬ刺激心を刺激されたとかさ。
Does she have a side like that? I don't know.
気をつけてね、宗十郎。あの子、あんたを殺しに来るかもしれないから。
I wouldn't be surprised. If anything, Uncle's warning was an indication that persuading Alice had hit a dead end.
なんか状況はあの夜からあまり変わってないようだね、青崎。
I mean, I guess not. But at least if it does happen, you get to sleep in a nice, comfortable bed. Shut up, an unconcerned look in reply.
そうじゃないぞ。青崎の次はあの子がやる気満々じゃないか。さっきみたいな目にあったら逃げることもできない。こういうの生殺しって言うんじゃないか。
そうならないように努力するのね。ま、アリスの理由は遊園地の時ほど切迫したものじゃないから、そのうち諦めてくれるとは思うんだけど。
青崎の時とは違うアリスの理由？
ええ。遊園地の時は秘密厳守のためだったけど、それは一応解決してる。あんたが底抜けに律儀なやつだってのはアリスだってもう分かってるし。なんで秘密厳守云々であそこまで反対する理由はないの。あの子は単にね、ここに住んでほしくないだけなのよ。それだけでアリスはあんたを殺したがってる。
In other words, sore la sore, kore la kore. That kind of thing, I guess. She said so matter-of-factly, her eyes cold and serious. Soju had hoped for a trace of deceit or exaggeration, but alas.
確かにあの子はそんな素振りだったけど、変だね。 それならもっと他の手段を取ればいいのに。
Perhaps feeling guilty about putting Alice out, Sojiro looked uncharacteristically concerned. Aka immediately knew what his words really meant.
例えば記憶を消す魔術が見つかるまでさっきの小瓶の中に閉じ込めておくとか。
Apathy in her voice until I was gone. The answer was a simple nod. In truth, it was undoubtedly the easy solution for all parties concerned. However,
宗十郎、私約束は破らないの。覚えておいて。
yeah, because that's also kind of the thing. It's like, it's only that if it was Alice's way, but it's like, again, Aoko has just as much input here because of how much the Aozaki bloodline has here. So it's like, he's lucky, but it's only in some sense. She hated taking the easy way out, and that quiet fury was clear in her soft words. As for where that fury was directed, Sojiro was acutely aware. Pain in his chest made him regret making her say those words.
すまない。考えが足りなかった。
Because again, it's like, Aoko threw a bone for him here, like a real bone. When in her case, again, I say just in her case, she shouldn't have. So it's like, if anything, it's like, this is the best solution you could have come up with. There is no alternative after that. It's just that he needs to come to terms with it. But again, it's like, I understand why he can't just immediately come to terms with it. But it's like, that's just the situation. So an apology caused his sudden expression to return. I could not appreciate how angry she was, let alone the reason for it. To her, his apology came out of nowhere.
あんたって本当わかんないわね。なんでそこで謝るのよ。
He stared at Sojiro, blinking.
あれ、そうだな。自分でもよくわからない。多分、そういう気分になったからだろう。
Even in saying he was not sure, Sojiro had answered honestly. Ako was at a loss for words.
ただ、青崎の言いたいことは分かった。約束を守るっていうことは、結果じゃなく、家庭を守るってことなんだな。
He shot her brazenly on his smile. His smiling face filled with blissful ignorance almost made her smile back instinctively.
当たり前じゃない。オチだけ合ってればいいなんて恥ずかしくてできないでしょ。
Ako attempted to cover for her embarrassment with a quick retort. Though unintentional, having her true feelings exposed like that made Ako a little uncomfortable. Finding offense in something was second nature to Ako. Being made to feel uncomfortable was not. Though far from being unhappy at the remark, she turned away from its speaker. To disguise her perceived shame, Ako started up the conversation again.
あなたを見逃すって言うなら気持ちの問題じゃなくてちゃんと状況もそうなるようにするのは当たり前なの。宗十郎をここに住まわせることがあの約束を守ることになるんなら厄介なアリスだって言い伏せるわよ。脅かすだけならまだしもずっと瓶付けなんてさせられるわけないでしょ。
そっか。青崎があの子を説得しない素振りなのは、もうできるだけの説得をした後だからなのか。あ、それで彼女とは冷戦中なんだ。
別にあんたのためじゃないわ。私は私のために約束を守ってるだけだし。お察しの通り、私のやるべきことはもう終わってるし、あとはそっちが努力する番だから勝手にすれば。あのね、いい？同居案をなんとか認めさせることができるのは私だけだから、2日間ぶっ通しでアリスを言い伏せもした。けどそれ以上は無理。私、ここから先はノータッチだから。しばらくはアリスから守ってあげるけど、その間にあの子にあんたを認めさせることはあんたにしかできないんだからね、宗十郎。
なんと
You're not expected at all. Alice Kuoji. Girl in black who kept everyone at arm's length? If Alco was a modern mage in hiding, then Alice was a bona fide witch from the Middle Ages.
青崎君自分がどれだけ難しいことを言ってるか分かってるか
Yes, we know it'll be the highest hurdle of your life, we get it. But you gotta accept it, that's just how it is.
そうね。私もこの件に関してだけは同情するわ。
Yeah, you deal with it. Sit up from the sofa. This was the end of the discussion, at least for now.
私たちがどんな人間かはおおよそ分かったでしょ。魔術に関してはこれ以上立ち入らない方があんたのためだから、
She
説
means
明は
it.
ここまでね。
Like, seriously, stay away from it.
で、肝心の今後の方針だけど、3ヶ月間ここで暮らす。当初の目標というより最初の試練は、なんとかアリスに同居人として認めてもらうこと。
試練って言った今そういう類のことを言った
If anything, it's more like life's mission at this point. Literally.
ごまかしてもいいことないでしょ、この手のことは。うまくいかなきゃ粉々なわけだし。
Yeah. I mean, better for him to improve his chances so then at least he can slightly relax more for the next couple months. For a cold-blooded remark, Alka started walking toward the door.
あ、そうそう。宗十郎の部屋だけど、3階に用意しといたから。2階のホールの裏側に階段があるから使って。ここは寮ってわけでもないし、時間は自由に使いなさい。ただし、西館にだけは入らないようにね。東館は私が借りてるから比較的安全だけど、それでも歩き回らない方が無難だわ。ま、基本安全なのはあんたの部屋とここだけよ。
中の説明ってまさかそれだけ
I mean, you'll just have to learn your own, buddy.
青崎はいろいろおかしい魔術なんかよりもっと大事な説明があると思う
He desperately called out to her as she began to leave the drawing room. She's like, why the fuck should I bother helping you? I already gave you the right to live. That's all you get. She couldn't help but pity Sojiro.
せめてほら案内とか
You see how late it is? You do realize we have school tomorrow, and you do realize she's the student council president. She don't got time for that.
面倒なんでパス。おのぼりさんを案内するなんて2回もやれば十分よ。
Yeah, I mean, come on. The last time she had to do it, she was forced to. What's the difference here?
起きたばっかりだし、とりあえず今日は部屋で休んだら。朝になったら学校まで案内してあげるから。もっとも、私もそう暇じゃなし。そばについてあげられるのは期末試験が終わるまでってことで。1週間以内にアリスと仲良くなるなり、弱みを握るなりしないと、まあ、あれよね。
Wait. What was that second option? Oh, you're evil, Elko. Just gotta love that about her. Love that sassiness. Or barely a wave of goodbye to student council Tyra and walked out. Onita. He unconsciously clenched the hand he had raised. Left all alone, he was at a complete loss. Then, as if to encourage him, the sound of lightly fluttering wings, a blue robin appeared out of nowhere. The tiny chubby bird instantly looked Sojiro up and down. The blue robin, the bird said to bring happiness according to folklore, flapped its little wings as if to cheer him on. Then, with a flutter, it mercilessly flicked off the lights. Wow, he really is lower than a dog here. Fuck. Leaving Sojiro alone in the drawing room, Ako returned to her bedroom. She closed the door to her room, and as soon as she sat on her bed, she was overcome by an unexpected wave of exhaustion. Sojiro had no way of knowing, but she had been preparing for war. In the event that Alice impulsively pulled out a ploy, Aoko had to be ready to react in an instant. She sighed heavily, but not for the fatigue she felt at fighting with Alice.
ちょっと突っぱねすぎたか？
She frowned a dejected frown. The weight on Ako's mind wasn't Alice.
でも甘くするのはあいつのためにならないし、基本おとなしくしてもらった方がいいわけだし。
It would be trouble if he wandered around like he owned the place, after all. The safest thing for him would be if he holed up in his room, too scared out of his wits to leave it.
青崎は味方だなんて勘違いされても困るしね。アリス同様、人手なし扱いされた方が楽だわ。
She nodded to herself, agreeing with her take on the situation. For the most part, it was a sound plan. If there were a problem, it would be this.
すまない青崎、一つ聞きたいことがあるんだが。
Right. Not 10 minutes have passed since leaving him in the drawing room. Sojiro to shirk off what she said and visit the room so fast, it's like he had no sense of danger at all. Well, I mean, you did say that those were the safe places, so why wouldn't he?
実は外に出たいんだ。
Huh? Of course he would ask to leave the house. She's like, oh god. You couldn't give me 5 minutes? 5 minutes? I should kick your ass here, but then it ruined the whole point of what I did. I could like the energy for a sarcastic barb.
洋館の中は歩き回らないし、用を済ませたらきちんと戻ってくる。ただ、門限とかあったら聞いておこうと思って。
You should honestly just throw him out the window. That's probably the easiest way to get him out of the house.
でも、アルバイトには行くのよね。
Oh, right. How did you know? Sojiro exclaimed in surprise. Well, I mean, that's all you do, bro. When it was Alka who decided to display her shock at him.
まあいいわ。基本、午後10時まで。その時間には必ず屋敷にいること。その後は夜勤に出かけるなり、庭でバーベキューするなり、何でも好きにしていい。それと、玄関に鍵はかかってないから。
気のせいじゃなければだけど。
Wait, it's never locked? What do you mean? Why? Isn't that dangerous?
青崎、すごく怒ってないか？
You just had to say it, didn't you?
あんた相手に気を使った自分に呆れ果ててるだけよ。外に出るのはいいけど、その前にこの錠剤飲んで。
ん？
He took the purple pill from her outstretched hand and dubiously put it in his mouth. He told himself that it must have been some kind of medicine.
それじゃあ行ってくる。いろいろありがとう、青崎。
あっそ。今度は窓から出ていかないでよね。
Laughed himself all the way to the foyer, unsure what exactly he had found funny. I'll go watch them go, both in different animes all at once. Oh, because that was the thing she was talking about, right?
ま、予定が半日早まっただけか。あの薬を飲ませるの、明日の朝にしてあげようと思ったのに。
Ah, great. It's like, finally, alone time. She huffed, ruffling her hair in exasperation and returning to her room. Deciding what made Sojiro tick was a waste of brain matter. In all likeliness, he was more concerned about missing 2 days of work than his own well-being after being bedridden for 2 days. Damn, we're still going with this. Okay. With the day's work behind him, Sojiro returned to the mansion.
よし。どこを探しても、2階のホールから上がれる階段はここだけだ。
It was just before midnight. This was the scene that awaited him beyond the rickety staircase.
ほう。
Not much surprise, Sojiro, or rather being surprised had become normal to him. This scene, however, was enough to leave him speechless. The room allotted to Sojiro. No matter how he looked at it, no matter how he ran it through his mind, was without a shadow of a doubt an attic. Great. Now, he went from having his own chill place to being put on the roof. Treatment stirred a tinge of anxiety in him. He's like, couldn't you at least give me the guest room, please? Even if it has dust on it, I'll sleep on it. Just as he was about to flop into the top sheets on his bed, wondering if he could make this work despite his share of other problems, he noticed an awkward courtesy, so meager as to be useless.
寒かったら重ねて使うこと。これはサービスとする。
Wait, what? You were just gonna make him sleep on the bed? Oh, boy, okay. Sure. You know what? Fine. It's the closest mercy you'll get from Aoko. Message in the memo pointed to the particular personality of the author. The bed had been perfectly prepared. Carefully setting aside the blanket that had been painstakingly placed on the edge of the bed for him in case he needed it, he looked up at the sky. Though faint, the stars twinkled through the skylight. For a mountain boy, that meager light was more than enough for him. Oh yeah, because he said he did kind of miss that. The stark contrast with the drawing room had caught him off guard, but now that he had collected himself, it wasn't so bad. This room fit his personality. Oh, sorry, I was checking something. Even if he was still not used to the building, he felt more at ease here than he did in any building in the city. Perhaps because it was built on a hill surrounded by woods. The atmosphere here was a little closer to the mountains where he used to live.
あ、でも家の中に霧が出るのはどうなんだろう。
Crooked his neck, pondering over the spectacle he had witnessed. On the ways to his room, Sergio had encountered what looked like fog in the foyer on the second floor. Misty fog drifted into a portion of the corridor, reminding him of a swarm of mosquitoes. Is that Alice's thing? Right, because she normally does that as like a barrier or something, right? As he said that, he swore he could make out a strange landscape. As he moved closer to get a better look, again out of nowhere, he inside the mansion, a little blue bird darted purposefully in front of him.
鳥？
The bird caught his attention, stopping him in his tracks. When he looked to check on the fog again, the strange scene had disappeared. I guess saying don't enter.
隙間でもあるのかな。明日青崎に聞いてみるか。
He muttered to himself as he sat on the bed. Meager as it was, the starlight peeping in through the skylight calmed him.
これなら。
Exhaling slowly, he laid down. For the time being, he had the essentials needed to live, and his bed was many times softer than it appeared. Thinking his worries seemed smaller than they were, he quickly drifted off to sleep. That was the story of from when he opened his eyes to when he fell asleep. Just like that, the short night following the long night was over. For one thing was true. Sergio was an optimist to a fault, but it wasn't the end of the world. Now let's rewind 5 hours prior to his glutton for punishment going to bed. Wait, what? What's going on here? Oh, so I guess when he left to go to work? It was 7 o'clock in the evening, just after the unproductive discussion between the two majors and the boy had ended. Leaving her roommate and the intruder in the drawing room, the girl walked alone through the foyer. From there, she headed to the west wing. These were Alice Kuonji's personal chambers, in which even her roommate, Ako Aozaki, seldom dared to step foot. The foyer was illuminated only by pale moonlight. Hard footsteps echoed through the dreary moonlit lobby. In such mansions in Japan, there was no custom of removing shoes at the door. Hence, Alice crossed the foyer in her boots. She only removed them when she relaxed in her bedroom. Suddenly, she remembered something from her childhood. She used to enjoy the feeling of the cold hardwood floor on her bare feet, walk around the foyer on particularly sunny days. After her father affectionately scolded her for it, she never did it again.
そうだったわね。青子は結局守らなかった。
She let out a quiet sigh. Alice's new roommate, whom she took on after coming to Japan, would not comply with her instructions.
落ち着かないものはしょうがない。
Ako would say, changing into her slippers. Ako might have found it natural to do so given that she lived in a typical Japanese house through middle school, but every time Alice heard her flip-flopping through the foyer, she wanted to cancel their cohabitation. Wait, it was that much of an annoyance for her? By now, Alice was not particularly bothered by it anymore. Human adaptability was remarkable at times, and ungracious at others. Emotional attachments of the past had proved far too brittle under the weight of reality. The little blue bird was perched on the banister. His tiny chirping made Alice stop and look its way.
今夜は放っておくわ。今は青子の問題よ。
The lack of feeling in her voice made the bird tilt its head as it sang. It trilled as though questioning its master's uncharacteristic leniency.
約束は約束よ。今夜ぐらいは多めに見ないと。青子と彼はそれだけの活躍をしたのだし。
She said to the bird, her voice betraying her discontent. You win, I'll let you go. She would keep that promise, despite of the unquenchable desire to fight that burned in her chest.
でも、その後の処遇は別の話。条件付きのゲームに勝ったぐらいで、いつまでも得意げでいられるのは心外だわ。
Perhaps it was her perfectionism born of fastidiousness, but despite her prim demeanor, Alice Kuroji was a sore loser. Wow, okay, that part of that Alko described was right. It didn't matter to her whose magecraft was superior. Losing the game had proven hard to move on from. Yeah, because that's basically a way of saying my magecraft is better, my magecraft is better, in a way. Especially for them where their magecraft is everything. The little bird fluttered its wings in agreement. Triggering Alice's contempt, it was itching to dive bomb the invader. Looked like a soldier saluting a superior officer as it preened itself. The blue bird turned to face its master. Its light-hearted tweeting seemed to display a desire to deal with Sojiro first thing in the morning.
そうね。理由さえできたのなら、瓶なり本なりに入ってもらいましょう。
Wait, can you actually put him in a book? I think that'd be cool. Because there was a character who did that in Bungo Stray Dogs, I think. Except her words lacked any bite. On the face of it, they were a chilling kind one might come to expect from a witch's lips. But then again so tame as to remind you of a certain robin's flapping.
しばらくの話よ。けど、それも一時だけ。私の我慢も長くは続かないし。だいたい、青子も人にかまけていられる立場じゃないわ。5日もすれば思い知るでしょう。そうすれば。
When that time came, expelling him would be simple. Alice was well aware her roommate was a pragmatist with no vision. The situation she created would not allow her to wait around. She could only afford to protect that boy for 3 or 4 days at most. Beyond that, Alice and Zaoko would crack and say something like, "You take care of this, Alice."
それまで待つか。あるいは、私の我慢が効かなくなるか。どちらにしても、結果は変わらないわ。
Alice Kuonji would suffer no more irritations. And protecting a witness, let alone allowing them to live in her mansion, was an indignity. Alice looked up, fascinated by the dense fog that had crawled into the foyer. But the fireplace was a single mirror. Roughly 3 feet in diameter, it decorated the wall where one might find a painting. Its surface was faintly clouded and vaguely reflected the foyer's appearance.
スナークをなくした影響でしょうね。鏡の機能、しばらくは制御できないみたい。
The little bird joyfully chirped at its master's mumbling. The bird attempted to imply that there was no need for her to lift a finger. Now the nuisance would fall into the mirror of his own accord. Or perhaps, if the little bird had not sang, Alice would have come to the same conclusion. For some reason, she recalled an earlier conversation.
これでも一番無難だと思う。
In response to her question, the boy inside the bottle shrugged his shoulders and answered. From his perspective, the city and the mansion were no different. It seemed that having just moved from the countryside, everything was something he had never seen before.
自慢できることじゃないが、まだ書き物さえ満足にできないし、都会のルールは複雑すぎて、何が正しいのかさえ区別がつかない。
More than embarrassment, his voice was full of resentment. He was angry about something, though Alice couldn't tell what. But
だから、どこにいても危ないことに変わりはないんだ。極端な話、道を歩くだけでも、人と話すだけでも不安になる。俺は、どこでだろうとうまくやっていける保証はないんだよ。けど、ここにはそんな奴に気を使ってくれる人がいる。気遣ってくれる理由は物騒なものっぽいけど、それは本当に贅沢なことだと思うんだ。
her eyes welled up ever so slightly. The soft words were something she couldn't brush off. because they made sense to her. Given that everything in the city was a danger to him, nothing had changed after coming to the mansion. In reality, he had no reason to fear this place in particular. If anything was different from the outside, it would be that someone here was his ally. With that view, he had been entirely sincere. His explanation hadn't contained any flattery words or flattery towards Alice Kuonji, more pandering to Aoko Aozaki. Yeah, because again, that's the thing. That's what makes him so unique too, is that he's just sincere because that's just what his environment made him. There's no way he could even lie or come up with anything like that, especially since he's never even had interactions before. So the only safe option, especially in such an environment, at least for him, would just be to always tell the truth. He was simply speaking from the heart. I like it here.
今、鏡に迷い込まれるのは迷惑ね。鏡の機能は侵入者の探索に専念させたいし、彼が迷い込みそうになったら止めてあげて。
Ah, okay. Yeah, because I was wondering, it's like, if it doesn't seem to be something that she can control, why would the bird stop him? If it could pose a danger. But I see. This is just her way of, like, at least giving him the 4 to 5 days to wait it out, right? At least that's what I think. I also looked away from the mirror and continued her walk. The bird chirped in
あな
protest.
たの仕事よ、ロビー。それぐらいの役には立って。
Even the bird with that icy retort, she vanished into the west wing. All that remained was the moonlight. The little blue bird trembling at the perilous prospect of unprecedented change. So what, is the bird gonna be his rival now for who's the third in the rank? Are you for real? Okay. Alright. Again, nothing too crazy, but at the very least, we did get a bit more of an understanding of what the situation is here. Because, like I said, I didn't really know how they were going to work it out. But yeah, I guess because they won, then she would let them have their moment, right? And again, it's like I didn't expect Alice to just be completely on board with this. So it is reasonable to be that she'll give it time, but she'll make it her time, not Aoko's time. But still, I'm gonna be interested to see how this dynamic's gonna change everything from now on. Because since this idiot always loves to tell the truth, I wonder if he's gonna tell them about his new living circumstances and what happened 2 days ago. Especially since he does kind of have to keep this whole thing a secret now, because then it would bring up more questions. But we'll have to see. But again, I did enjoy this, having these little nitpicks with each other, and the demonstration of magic to him to really be like, you do understand what this is really about, right? This ain't a joke. These aren't just games you're playing anymore. This is a real life now, buddy. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna be interested to see what we have going forward with this. And again, we still haven't even really confronted the whole thing with the puppet master. But again, only time will tell for that. But I honestly did kind of enjoy this still. Again, I have to say, I really do like what they're doing with this. Like, not only with like just the visuals for this, but again, it's like the logic and the way that the characters are taking actions in the specific way that they do. It's very sound, which I really can't come to appreciate, because like someone like me, I'm not saying everyone's like this, but there are other people as well who like to at least make sure it's like, does this sound right? Is this a solid reasoning? Does it feel flawed in any way? Does it feel like they kind of like copped out or took the easy way out in some cases? But no, everything about this seems reasonable within the logic of this world and based on what we've seen of the characters up to that point. So I am glad they are still sticking with that. But yeah, when we come back to this next week, we'll continue where we left off here and see exactly what's going on. But it looks like it's just going to be the normal days after the events of that night. But we'll see how we go from there. But anyway, let me give a huge shout out to Skydom GD for shutting up to the stream. Great chat with you. And yeah, I'm also hyped for the movie when it eventually comes out. I'm just hoping I can actually finish this by then. But I mean, to be fair, I'm on like chapter 6 now. I have no idea how many parts there are or how long they are, but I think if I can at least put a couple extra streams somewhere in the middle of some weeks, I could possibly finish it just before then. But again, it's like, I don't know if I'd actually see the movie live, because I don't know how they're gonna do that. Is it like gonna be available online because like they do for other anime movies? Is it gonna be like in theaters or something like that. I mean, if somehow we can get it in theaters in the U.S. and hopefully in the East Coast, hopefully in Virginia, that'd be appreciated. But I don't know. We'll have to see how exactly that's gonna pan out. But like I said, I'm actually really enjoying this. So like I said, tonight will still be Wuthering Waves. Hopefully, I actually did check my phone, and for some reason it says there's gonna be like rain or even possibly a thunderstorm. I'm like, oh God, really? Y'all gonna do this for me now? Well, actually, let me see. I wish you could check. Yeah, storms likely Friday overnight. I really hope that isn't the case. I'll see if I can do some kind of workaround for that. Hopefully. Let me see. Uh, oh, okay. It just seems more. Okay, no, never mind. It actually changed. It just seems like rain likely overnight. Yeah, it's gonna be starting tomorrow, so I can do something about that around that time. So I think we should at least be good to stream Wuthering Waves tonight, and then tomorrow I'll do Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. But maybe I'll at least do that a bit earlier so that I don't have to deal with the storm and everything. But anyway, if you guys did enjoy the scene but already found the channel, please make sure to leave a follow. Much appreciated. Check out my YouTube channel. I post a lot of VODs. Subscribe as well. Links to my other socials are on the channel. But this has been Santa's Voice. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I'll see you guys next time. We're out.